Did you know that about 92% of people never achieve their New Year's resolutions? Shocking, right? Many of us believe that simply visualizing our goals will help us get there. We imagine ourselves fit, successful, or happy, thinking it will motivate us to take action. But here's the twist. Studies show that too much visualization can actually make us less likely to act. In fact, research from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that those who spend too much time dreaming about their goals often become complacent. They feel like they've already succeeded, which can lead to inaction. This means that your daydreams could be sabotaging your progress without you even realizing it. So, what's going on here? Why does visualization, which seems so positive, have this downside? In this video, we'll explore the surprising truth about visualization and why it might be stopping you from taking action. You'll discover practical strategies to turn your dreams into reality without getting stuck in a fantasy loop. Get ready to challenge everything you thought you knew about visualization. By the end, you'll have the tools to take real steps toward your goals. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. The Comfort Trap. When dreaming feels like doing, visualization feels good, right? You picture yourself crushing it, achieving that big goal, and it's almost like you've already done it. But here's the thing. Our brains can sometimes confuse imagining success with actually achieving it. According to a study from psychological science, simply visualizing success can trick the brain into releasing dopamine, the same feel-good chemical we get when we actually accomplish something. In other words, you feel rewarded for just dreaming, and that can make you less likely to act. You've already satisfied the need for progress, so why put in the hard work? The key here is to recognize when you're falling into this comfort trap. It's easy to mistake dreaming for doing, especially when the visualizing process feels productive. The trick is to channel that energy into real-world actions. Instead of just imagining the end result, focus on what small steps you can take today. Action beats daydreaming every time. Chapter 2. Neurohijacking. How visualization tricks your brain. Now, let's talk science. When you visualize something vividly, your brain activates many of the same neural circuits as if you were actually doing it. This is known as neurohijacking. Sounds cool, right? It's actually a double-edged sword. In her book Grit, psychologist Angela Duckworth discusses how overly focusing on end goals can make us feel prematurely accomplished, reducing our drive to keep working. We get that mental pat on the back and think we're closer to the finish line than we really are. This is why many people get stuck in the dreaming phase and never make tangible progress. To avoid this, flip the script on your brain. Instead of visualizing only the outcome, imagine the obstacles and challenges you'll face along the way. Researchers call this mental contrasting. It combines positive visualization with realistic planning and has been shown to increase motivation and follow through. Studies from New York University found that participants who practiced mental contrasting were more likely to achieve their goals compared to those who just visualized success. So, don't let your brain fool you. Acknowledge the hard work ahead. Chapter 3. The Motivation Mirage. When positive thinking backfires. Positive thinking is often hailed as the key to success, but too much of a good thing can be dangerous. You've probably heard the quote, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right," from Henry Ford. While that's motivational, overconfidence can be a trap. In a 2011 study from Health Psychology, researchers found that people who solely focused on positive outcomes were less likely to achieve their goals. Why? Because they underestimated the challenges ahead. It's a bit like standing at the foot of a mountain and saying, "I've got this," without realizing how tough the climb will be. Instead of just thinking positively, start thinking practically. Break your goals into smaller, manageable steps, and be honest about the effort required. A great way to do this is by using implementation intentions, a strategy described by Peter Gallwitzer, a psychologist at New York University. It's simple. Instead of just thinking, "I want to lose weight," say, "If I'm offered dessert, I'll choose fruit." This way, you prepare for real-world situations, not just idealized outcomes. The bottom line? Positive thinking isn't enough. You need to balance it with actionable, realistic plans. If you're finding these insights helpful, be sure to subscribe. Join us for more practical tips and strategies to take your personal development to the next level. Chapter 4. The Execution Gap. Why clarity beats visualization. Visualization can be motivating, but there's a massive gap between visualizing success and executing on it. This is where many people get stuck. They're clear on what they want but fuzzy on how to get there. In fact, a Harvard Business Review study showed that people who break down their goals into specific, actionable steps are 62% more likely to achieve them compared to those who focus solely on the big picture. Think of it like this: visualization gives you a blurry outline of your goal, but execution gives you the sharp details. That's where clarity comes in. If your goal is to run a marathon, for instance, don't just imagine yourself crossing the finish line. Instead, focus on the steps you need to take each day, like how many miles to run, what to eat, and how to rest. This approach transforms a distant dream into a concrete plan. A good strategy here is called chunking. Break your big goal into small, manageable pieces. It's easier to take action on a series of tiny tasks than one overwhelming goal. James Clear, in Atomic Habits, puts it simply: you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Translation: stop over-focusing on the end result and build a process that moves you forward, step by step. Chapter 5. Escaping the fantasy loop. The power of small wins. Have you ever noticed that imagining your success can make you feel like you're already there? It's called the fantasy loop, and it can trap you. When you visualize your end goal too much, you get so lost in the fantasy that you forget the reality. A great way to break out of this loop is to focus on small wins. Stanford psychologist B.J. Fogg, in his Tiny Habits method, emphasizes that tiny victories can fuel big success. Small wins give you real momentum, which is much more powerful than imagined success. Fogg suggests starting with something ridiculously small, so small you can't help but succeed. For example, if your goal is to exercise regularly, start by doing just one push-up. It sounds too simple, but that's the point. Research from Harvard Business School backs this up. Their study found that celebrating small achievements leads to higher levels of motivation and productivity. So, instead of waiting to feel successful at the finish line, create small, frequent moments of progress. These moments will keep you moving forward. Chapter 6. From Daydream to Doer, Practical Tools to Balance Visualization and Action. So, how do you balance dreaming with doing? It's all about practical tools that help bridge the gap. One effective method is called WOOP, a strategy developed by psychologist Gabriele Oettingen. WOOP stands for Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, and Plan. The idea is simple. First, identify your wish, what you want to achieve, then visualize the best possible outcome. But here's the twist: you also have to imagine the obstacles you'll face and create a plan to overcome them. This strategy forces you to combine optimism with realism, making you more likely to act. In a New York University study, participants using WOOP were twice as likely to follow through on their goals compared to those who only visualized positive outcomes. Another tool is the 2-minute rule, from the Productivity Project by Chris Bailey. The rule states that if a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, do it right now. This cuts through procrastination and makes action feel manageable. It's a small but effective way to ensure you take immediate action rather than getting lost in more dreaming. Lastly, don't forget the power of accountability. According to the American Society of Training and Development, having an accountability partner increases your chances of achieving your goal by 65%. If you meet with that partner regularly, your chances jump to 95%. It's one thing to set a goal in your head, but sharing it with someone else makes it real. If you enjoyed these insights, don't forget to subscribe. Join us for more tips and strategies to help you turn your aspirations into achievements. Let's make those dreams a reality together.